Sorry. Max, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, great. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm MTA Chairman and CEO Pat Floyd, joined by my colleagues, New York City Transit President Andy Byford to my right, and his Senior Vice President for the Department of Subway, Sally Librera, and members of their senior leadership team with us this morning to announce really terrific news. We're here to announce Subway performance statistics for the month of June 2019, which once again have improved significantly and continue to improve month after month after month. Every single metric we track was better last month than it was in June 2018, a year ago. Even better, 12-month averages in every category are trending positively. These improvements are the results of the Subway Action Plan launched by Governor Cuomo in 2017 and the Save Safe Seconds campaign. The Subway Action Plan has delivered a shot in the arm to the MTA, providing us with additional personnel, tools, resources, and means and methods for improving and rebuilding our system. Now, the headline today is that Subway on-time performance surpassed 80% for the first time in nearly 6 years. There are reams of data behind this headline that show just how much our subway system has improved in the last 18 months. We'll hear the details in a moment, but I'd like to remind you and the public at large that the MTA has begun our critically important work to fundamentally reform this organization, as mandated in the state budget. By the end of the month, we'll deliver to our board and make public a personnel and reorganization plan. We're revamping our FOIL and open data processes. We'll soon undergo an independent forensic audit to be completed no later than the end of this year, and subsequently presented to the MTA board and made public. State law now requires that any MTA capital project over $25 million use design build. These are just a few of the reforms already underway. And in addition, now that we will be entrusted beginning in 2021 with central business district tolling revenues and other revenues provided in the state budget, reserved by law for our capital budget, our obligation to ensure that taxpayer money is being spent wisely has never been greater. And today, 1 year of sustained improvements show that our subway team's emphasis on the basics of service and our push to make strategic institutional changes at every level is getting solid results that we're proud of, solid results for our customers. The proof is in the data and in the experiences of our riders who can see and feel for themselves that our subway system is turning around and on the right track. And with that, I'll pass it off to Andy, who will discuss the specific improvements his team has worked so hard to achieve.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat. Good morning, everyone. As the chairman just mentioned, weekday on-time performance in our subway system last month was 81.5%. And as the chairman said, that's the highest since August of 2013. And remember where we were. That's up from a woeful 58% on-time performance in January 2018, really not so long ago. And our streak is still going strong. For 10 consecutive months now, we've hit our target to achieve 10,000 fewer subway delays every month than the 80,000 delay per month average that was here just 18 months ago. And we've got another streak going along too. In March, we increased our target to a reduction of 18,000 delays every month, and we've hit that target 4 months in a row now. More specifically, last month, just over 30,000 trains were delayed, and that's the lowest since September of 2013, a near 46% decrease compared to last June. We had 45 major weekday incidents last month, and that is incidents delaying 50 or more trains. That number is also down. That's down by more than 27% compared to last June, matching the fewest major incidents per weekday since we began recording this measurement in 2015. But a critical point to note is that we're not just focused on punctuality. We're equally focused on reliability, which is just as important to our mission. Getting customers where they're going, on time, consistently every day, and minimizing the time they spend on the train or on the platform. All of our new customer-focused metrics improved in June and were better than their 12-month averages. Now, we introduced these metrics precisely because we're not just interested in how our trains are moving. We also want to know how our customers are moving. Additional train time, for example, is the average additional unanticipated time that customers spend on board a train due to various service issues. So it's important to measure and track that. It truly is a proxy for the customer's experience. And that dropped to a new low of 47 seconds last month, an average of nearly 33% from last June. Let's look at another metric. Customer journey time performance represents the percentage of customers whose journeys are completed within 5 minutes of schedule. It's basically on-time performance from the customer's perspective. And that metric was more than 84% in June, the highest since we started measuring it in 2017. Now, as a result, and this is a relationship you absolutely want to see, as a result, customer complaints are down year over year, and customer satisfaction rates are up in our latest quarterly report for our subway system. This is empirical, get that right, this is empirical evidence that customers are actually feeling those improved metrics. And before I pass to Sally, I want to reiterate a few things that I've said during several similar announcements recently. First up, key point, we're still not satisfied. We know we still have a long way to go, but we're clearly moving in the right direction, as you can see from the graphs to my left on these boards just up in front of the room. We're working to squeeze every drop of performance out of the existing system, while in parallel we continue to re-signal the system, the bedrock of our fast-forward plan to transform the subway. I've said before, I'll say again, re-signaling the subway is the most transformative thing that we can do, and we're very focused on that. And look at the performance on Line 7 since that was fully converted to CBTC and since we switched on automatic train operation. The funds promised by Central Business District tolling will be a huge step towards delivering the service that New Yorkers need and that they deserve. All the improvements we're seeing today are a direct result of the extraordinary work of our transit workers and managers, some of whom are here with us today. They're who I call my Subway's dream team. So come in, guys. We have a few of them here today. We have Barry Greenblatt, who's our Vice President for Service Delivery. We have John Santamaria, who's our Vice President for Car Equipment. We have Joe Joyce, who's the Vice President of Maintenance of Way. Terry Rumpf, who's the Chief Infrastructure Officer. I haven't actually seen Terry. Terry's out on the road doing the job. There you go. We have Joe Nacella, who's the Assistant Chief Track Officer. Dan Ronan, who's the Chief Signals Officer. And these are just a few of the thousands of people, the hard-working frontline operators, maintainers, and planners of New York City Transit who are working non-stop under our Subway Action Plan to install miles of new, more reliable track and to repair thousands of signals and track defects. They're the same people that are out there in our system working day and night to implement our Save Seconds campaign that we created just last year with the involvement of our union partners to safely reduce travel time for our customers. They are making our subway system more reliable, more resilient, more transparent, and more accountable. Their work is getting us back on track, and that progress is not going to stop. I'd now like to pass to Sally to discuss how the improvements we've made have gotten us here today. Running a subway requires the right people with the right skills, the right mandate, and the right focus to identify and eliminate root causes of delay, a mantra that I have said since day one. And I asked Sally, our Chief Operating Officer Frank Giesecke, and her team to focus on getting the basics right and to develop a campaign to complement the work already underway via the Subway Action Plan. So again, working with our union partners, our Save Seconds campaign has safely speeded up service across the network with more improvements still to come. Sally.
Thank you, Andy. Yes, that is exactly what we are doing to achieve these results. Throughout subways, our teams are working to enhance their focus on the basics, to complete critical maintenance, critical repairs to improve service for our customers. Actual run times on all of our lines, nearly all of our lines, have improved 2019 versus 2018. And I want to talk about some of the reasons why. First, our Save Seconds campaign. Since the summer of 2018, a safety committee has removed overly restrictive speed limits at 124 locations in the system. We've also identified hundreds of slow-clearing timed signals, and we are recalibrating them. In this way, we are safely speeding up service for millions of customers every day. We're also completing an extraordinary amount of work through the Subway Action Plan. For example, we've repaired or rebuilt more than 1,700 signal components. We've made maintenance practices more efficient, enabling us to accelerate scheduled and reliability-based maintenance on our cars and maintain more cars each year. Throughout subways, we're focusing on the components that most impact performance, like our focused inspection and repair campaigns for car doors, which cause about 40% of our incidents that are car equipment related. We've increased the amount of productive wrench time delivered by our workforce during overnight outages by over 60% compared to 2016. We've installed 51 miles of continuous welded rail. That's replacing jointed rail, which is more prone to rail defects, which can cause delays. We've cleared 55,000 street grates. We've sealed more than 6,300 leaks. We've repaired almost 25,000 minor track defects in the system. We've completed rail grinding on 79 miles of track. We've deep cleaned 2,500 car interiors, 2,700 car exteriors, and over 100 stations to date. Our group station managers have also completed targeted repairs and cleaning campaigns in 130 stations in the system. We've also significantly reduced track debris fires in the system, which are a significant cause of delays, since we started attacking the program with new equipment in 2017. We're now cleaning trash from our tracks at an unprecedented rate with new platform-based mobile vacs, as well as new high-powered vacuum trains. We have 3 of them now running through the system. Thank you. Pat, back to you.
So thanks to Andy, Sally, the gentleman to Sally's left, all of whom work for Sally, and the 50,000 employees, especially let's give a shout out to our union members for these incredible results, and we're happy to take your questions. Michael Aronson.
Mr. Cuomo has been saying that the Subway Action Plan has produced these terrific results. He's cleaning out the drains, everything else. The Subway Action Plan was funded a special appropriation of $836 million, and it's gone or it's running dry. The congestion pricing legislation that was passed a year or two ago dedicates $300 million a year from the taxi fees in law to the Subway Action Plan. What's going to happen with that money? Doesn't that mean that basically the Subway Action Plan can continue at about $400 million a year to bring in these outside contractors, do have all this extra work, and keep these great results?
Well, look, the governor's right. The Subway Action Plan has been a critical and a pivotal part, starting with the governor's declaration of a state of emergency in July of 2017. Your number for the Subway Action Plan, 836, Mr. Aronson, is exactly right. You're also right, because the editorial page is never right, that never wrong, that the phase 1 of congestion pricing, the charge on for-hire vehicles, will create about $300 million annually that will go to institutionalizing this work and ensuring that the means and methods that have been applied in this work, including, where appropriate, the use of outside forces, independent contractors, together with TWU union members, will continue to maintain and build on this work. Please, Andy.
If I might just add to that. And I think you raise a very important question, because the key thing here is to keep going. The worst thing that we could do is say, good, right, that's it, the job's finished, we've intervened, we've installed this new track, we've cleaned the drains, we've done various things. You've got to keep at it. The worst thing that you can do, I've seen other places fall into this trap, is to think the job is done, to effect improvement, and then once again to let the system slide back into a state of disrepair. You must keep maintaining state of good repair. That is the key learning point here. So it's good that we have that ongoing additional fund that to which you referred, Michael. We've got to keep investing in the system and in parallel renewing and equipping it, which is what we're doing with Fast Forward and the CBTC resignaling program.
Dan.
I've been hearing the governor is grilling some of the transit staff about Safe Seconds, why wasn't this done years ago? What's his level of involvement? What is he telling the MTA, and what are you doing with that feedback?
Well, the governor issued a press release on the speed timers. Was correspondent exchange between the TWU leadership and the governor, and I think the governor is bringing additional focus and obviously resources to this. As Andy mentioned, the speed timer issue is an incredibly important one, and the reason that we're optimistic about the results that you see to the left is continued funding of Subway Action Plan with the for-hire vehicle $300 million, the Save Seconds plan, frankly, the completion of CBTC on the 7 line, which has made a dramatic improvement on 7 line throughput, and the speed timer issue. And a combination of those, as well as the focus that Andy and Sally and their entire team have brought to this, makes us optimistic about being able to maintain, build on, and increase these results.
I know you had a press release. I'm saying personally communicating with staff. What is that doing to the program, the Safe Seconds program, in its entirety? When you say bring focus and resources, what does that mean?
Well, Dan, my answer to that is the proof is in the pudding, and the pudding is to my left, and the on-time performance increases, the reduction in major incidents, the weekday delays that are down, the reduction in major incidences, customer complaints being down, are all consistent. They're building month after month, and the answer is that the Subway Action Plan, Save Seconds, and the work that the 50,000 people at New York City Transit, subways, and buses have done are paying dividends for our customers. That's what this is about. Clayton.
Mujica and the governor recommended that a task force look at signal and speed timers. Has that task force been formed, and how would it be different from the work that you're doing through Safe Seconds?
I think the task force will obviously be focused on policy issues and oversight and making suggestions. We welcome the creation of that task force and further communication and integration with the TWU's leadership and rank and file. Please.
Did you say you eliminated speed limits?
No. Andy, why don't you speak to?
Well, I think Sally's best place. So there's 2 things that we've done. We've been recalibrating signals, and we have been identifying speed limits, speed restrictions that are redundant or where we can safely increase what we call the civil speed. I'll ask Sally to talk to the detail.
So in some cases, we have civil speeds in the system, and when we use the term civil, we're referring to speeds that aren't mandated or imposed by the signaling system, but are posted like speed limits on a road for safe operation, essentially between areas that have more positive train control. And so in those cases, we've been reviewing each and every one of those areas, and in some cases, we've identified that the speed limits are appropriately set. In some cases, we've identified that there are modifications we can make to the speed limits, essentially raising them safely. And in other cases, we have determined that there are some speed limits, again, in these civil territories that can be removed altogether. So we've done a combination of things all through an established and very focused and methodical safety committee.
So how much faster are the trains going, and how much difference does it make in performance?
So preliminarily, because we're rolling out these changes right now, we're making good progress weekend by weekend. When we looked at the May runtime statistics, we saw that runtimes came down. When we compared the May 2019 runtimes to the May 2018 runtimes, we saw a reduction in runtime of about 4% over the entire A division, which is all of our numbered lines, and about 2% for the B division lines, and that varies by line. But we're encouraged by that, because we are seeing not just the reduction in runtimes, but an increase in reliability and an increase in our ability to respond to incidents when they happen.
Let me just add to that. I'd just like to add to that a little bit, just by saying why it was so important that we set up the Save Seconds campaign. If I might use the analogy or the image of an old car. if you have a really old car and it's increasingly unreliable, obviously you've got to maintain it better. And that's what the Subway Action Plan did. So the Subway Action Plan absolutely focused on getting the subway, the component parts of the subway, if you will, to be more reliable, because you're taking out old bits of kit, replacing them with new, and you're better maintaining what's already there. So that's the analogy of the old car. You've got to maintain it properly in the first place. But you still got to drive it properly. Otherwise, it'll just sit in the garage. You've got to still drive it properly. You've got to have the right rules of the road. The speed limits have got to be correct. You don't want unnecessary speed limits. So that was what we added with Save Seconds. So to the point about the task force that Clayton asked, I welcome it. I think it's great. It means that now, with the governor's direction, we have more focus being applied on this. It builds on what we've already done. We focused in on this. We identified this need to recalibrate signals back in the fall of last year. We have been working in conjunction with our union partner since day one. A lot of the initiatives that came from, that have informed the Save Seconds campaign are from frontline operators. We went out and asked them, where do you think we can make improvements? So this is partnership in action, and the task force just means that we'll do even more of this to even more benefit.
Just to follow up on the Subway Action Plan, last week Governor Cuomo said the emergency order is over. So I'm curious how that affects your Subway Action Plan. And additionally,
That's not what the governor said. What the governor said was the emergency was over, and I think he was referring to the declaration in July of 2017 that the subways were in crisis. The decision whether to extend the executive order is obviously up to the governor and his council. I'll note that we have not invoked or used the executive order on procurements here going back to March. As I mentioned at my first board meeting in April, we are dedicated to minimizing the use, and I've reached out to Andy Filling, Kathy Rinaldi, Danny Druconsendo at TBTA to minimize that. So just to clarify.
just to follow up, with congestion pricing doesn't go into effect until 2021.
Correct.
If the Subway Action Plan money is dry now, is it going to be on hold until?
Well, no. But sorry, the $300 million from for-hire vehicles, phase one of congestion pricing, those monies began to be collected February 1st or the first week of February when the TRO was lifted. So those funds will be available in 2019, 2020, and going into the future to continue to institutionalize and take, Subway Action Plan work to the next stage. Vin.
Onto the capital side, there's still a lot of gaps funding, even with the congestion pricing. Obviously, the state legislature is over. They left Albany. What are you planning to do to make up that difference? And also, just a separate question: when should we expect the needs assessment? A lot of people are kind of waiting for that.
Oh, let's take the last one first. The 20-year needs assessment is being actively worked on. I expect that by the end of the year, it will be a matter of public discussion at an MTA board meeting. I think that's an important document. In terms of the capital plan, the work on the capital plan continues. We'll be briefing our board in the weeks ahead. Obviously, the combination of congestion pricing and the other two revenue sources, plus our expectation for federal funding at the same level as in the 2015 to 2019 plan, gets us to around $32 billion. As the budget director mentioned at the June meeting, the capital plan number is most likely in the $40 billion area. Some of that I expect will come from the MTA itself. What do I mean by that? I think that the efficiencies and productivity enhancements, for instance, that Jano Lieber has been able to realize at MTA Capital Construction, if applied to the capital plan, the new capital plan writ large, will make us more efficient and more productive in spending that. I think that things like value capture, which frankly the MTA has not been terribly good at executing on, we're very focused on that for 2nd Avenue Subway Phase 2, possible use of public-private partnerships and a combination of things like that, including additional funding at the federal or other levels, will complete the capital plan.
Just to follow up
Yeah,
on
Vin.
the federal, so the federal figure, that's $7 billion, the same level?
Yeah, that's our assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so obviously this administration has not been friendly to infrastructure, mass transit, urban areas in general.
Yeah, of course. We meet regularly with colleagues from USDOT, both in Washington and here in New York. Our colleagues at USDOT Regional or across across Broadway at the Customs House. Those discussions continue, frankly, regularly. The other thing I'll say is a significant portion of the $7 billion is formula funding. Those formulas haven't been changed. Obviously, we want to do better than $7 billion, and we'll be looking for funding on 2nd Avenue Subway Phase 2 and other projects as well. Marcia.
Your reaction to the reports that were released yesterday by the MTA Inspector General, which broadly should be characterized as MTA employees behaving badly. Everything from conflicts of interest, overtime abuses, corruption, city bus and train drivers, moonlighting as Uber and Lyft drivers. I'm wondering your reaction, what you're doing about it, and whether any of these people will be punished.
Well, look, the reports of the Inspector General yesterday were appalling. The MTA employees, many of whom have already retired when these issues were raised with them, that conduct is unacceptable. It violates the MTA Code of Ethics. In some cases, it may violate law. I want to commend the work that former Inspector General Barry Kluger has done and that new Inspector General Carolyn Picorni is doing. I think the work that both of them are doing in that office is an extraordinary benefit to the public. The MTA is in a position, given the passage of congestion pricing and the other revenue sources in the budget, to have to demonstrate to our customers, to elected officials, to taxpayers generally, that we're responsible stewards of that money. The conduct that was described yesterday in the IG's reports, the only word is appalling. And where I know the Inspector General is working closely with the MTA and MTA agencies to refer that conduct, this conduct, and any future conduct to law enforcement where that's appropriate.
Can I just need to follow up?
Please, Marcia.
So you say that the district attorneys or whatever agency would follow up on the
Marcia, where appropriate, yes. And the
So here's my question.
Yeah.
I know that you're doing this because you're trying to convince people going forward that when you get the money from congestion pricing, you're going to spend it wisely.
No, that's not why we're doing it. We're doing it because the conduct is reprehensible. It's appalling. It violates the core values of this agency and this administration. And where we discover it, and we're going to look, the old Inspector General and the new Inspector General, I think, are doing tremendous work. The disclosures and the reports that were issued yesterday, I think, will send a message to the small number, what I believe is a small number of employees at the MTA, that you should not do this. If you do that, you will be caught and you will be sanctioned or worse.
So my question really was, this kind of thing, these headlines, these issues, make it more difficult for you to convince the writing public that you're making progress, that you have more on-time performance, that you're getting rid of truck routes, you're fixing the subways, you're fixing the buses. Does it make it difficult for you to get that?
I think quite the contrary. I think what it does is show that we're focused on this issue, that this conduct is unacceptable, that it's appalling, and that we're going to do something about it, and that both that the new Inspector General is going to be aggressive and muscular, and I think it's fair to say that's the approach she's taken since day one, and that's exactly the right conduct. We're not going to tolerate it.
Chairman, should these folks that retired and are now receiving their pensions, should they continue to receive those?
Look, the state pension law needs to be addressed. In some cases, collective bargaining needs to be addressed. I have the same reaction that a commuter on a Long Island Railroad platform or waiting for the subway right now is, why should someone who's engaged in what is behavior like that described in the IG's report that violates law, violates MTA standards, why should they be rewarded with a pension? State law will have to be addressed. Perhaps the state constitution will have to be addressed, because the state constitution provides protection for public employee pensions, and the collective bargaining agreements, the TWU, some of the Long Island Railroad contracts have expired, and that is going to be on the list of issues that is going to be foremost as we go forward. We've spoken with the governor and his staff about the legal issues and about the collective bargaining agreement issues. These issues are important to the governor and his entire administration.
Two more, guys.
Poison ivy issue and
Yeah, no, it's okay. The poison ivy issue, Phil Eng, the president of the Long Island Railroad, is addressing it. Marcia, I expect and have directed Phil to have it removed by the end of the week. This came to our attention in the last day or so. I understand it may be a longstanding concern for that community, and it will be addressed.
Joe?
Yes, sir.
The reported timeline for the securitization plan has been you get the plan, the board gets the plan and runs on it, and then the public gets to see it, and people expect that the board is going to pass the plan. So what does it say about the MTA's approach to transparency? Why do it in secret?
No, it's not being done in secret. The plan will be publicly available before the board votes on it. The board's consideration at the July meeting is frankly the first step. There will be an additional report that Alex Partners, which is the firm that was chosen, will issue 30 days around the end of August. And then the final report, which will incorporate public comments, those from advocates, those from customers, those from riders, is due by the end of October. So this is the first step in a process. It will play out in public. I'll note that Alex Partners reached out at our request, at my request, to a number of advocacy groups, to certain representatives of organized labor at the MTA, and I think there has been and will be plenty of time for dialogue and public comment before the board, before the final report is completed in October. Rich Lamb. Yes. Yes, sir.
Is there a fear within the organization because the sense we get is that's going to be kind of an earthquake taking place within the authority? Are employees worried? Are they concerned? Do you hear any talk like, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, Rich, having gone through a process like this at another public agency and in a private sector company, change is always of concern to employees, to stakeholders, et cetera. That goes without saying. I think that the reforms and the reorganization and the reviews required by the state legislation will, in both the short term, the intermediate term, and the long term, be beneficial for the MTA. I'm convinced of that. I'm also convinced, importantly, that it will be beneficial for our customers and our employees. This will play out in public. The recommendations, I believe, will yield a better MTA, a better transit system, and better service for our customers at every one of our agencies. Thanks, everybody.
How can the 20-year needs assessment be released after the capital review? And will either of those make for good beach reading?
Well, I think it's all going to make good beach reading. The 20-year needs assessment, it may be a little cold to be on the beach when that comes out later in the year. These are important documents. I think it's fair to say that the 20-year needs assessment is obviously the existing one, and the one that's being worked on is informing in a significant way the work that's being done on the capital plan, which is quite important. Thanks, everybody. Is that yours?
Yes, thank you.
Marcia, update. The poison ivy will be dealt with. Yeah, sure.